Welcome to Crimepedia. I hope you're having a wonderful day. My name is Morgan, and with me, as always, is my wonderful true crime BFF, and now worldwide superstar. It's the lovely Cherry.
Hello, we are back from our little vacation, back from our little break, and it's good to be back. Thank you very, very much. It's nice to see you all. Thank you all for your lovely messages whilst we've been away. We hope we kept you entertained with some of our little bonus episodes, but now we're back to our weekly episodes, so you can't get rid of us that easily.
Yeah, and while we were away, we had a really big surprise for everyone. Cherry and I, we were very lucky to be a part of a new television series on A&E here in the United States called Murder in the 21st. And we were featured quite prominently on the series premiere.
Yeah, it was really cool to see our little logo on the screen and stuff. It was lovely. And it was a story that's very close to our heart. So it was a case that we did last year. And you may have, if you're a regular listener, you would have probably heard the case of Natalie Bollinger. And this was like the visual representation of that. So thanks very much to the guys on A&E and to all the production team and everybody for having us on. We really enjoyed it.
Yeah, we got a big surprise when the episode started, and your lovely face was right there.
Yeah, that was a bit of a surprise because we thought it was just going to be audio. We didn't realize that it was going to be actual video either. So that was a bit of a surprise. But yeah, it was good. It was very nice to see. And thanks to my lovely friend Casey for getting me a copy of it so I could watch it. It was really kind of her.
Oh, that's really good.
Yes, I could watch it here in England.
Now, if you happen to be here listening to our show now because you saw us on the program, we would love to invite you to go back and listen to. We actually had 2 episodes on Natalie Bollinger.
Yeah.
We had one, I believe it was just titled "The Murder of Natalie Bollinger," and that was our interview with the lead detectives, Detective Matt Peterson and Detective Jay Rogers.
Yep.
Which they were fantastic. They go very in depth into their investigation. And so there's a lot more that you can learn about how they got to their finding out who actually killed Natalie.
Yeah.
There was really interesting stories about them and their stakeouts.
There's a lot more than there's a lot more than what was on the TV show. So if you are interested in that story, you'll find a lot more if you go back and listen to that episode.
Yep. And then the second one, which is, I believe we just titled Remembering Natalie, which was our interview with Natalie's mother, Rose Self, and her grandmother, Denise Stewart.
Yeah.
And you definitely listen to that. You
That's
get to learn a lot more about Natalie, about how it affected the family, what they had to go through. That was like you said, a very hard interview to do.
It was really hard.
Very glad we got the opportunity to speak with them. They were wonderful, wonderful people. So very nice and kind. So we can't thank them enough for, taking some time out to talk to us.
Yeah. Talking of thanks, we've also got to say thank you to KJ Brady, who is now a new Patreon on our Patreon channel. If you want to do that, you can go over and join. Just go onto Patreon and find us. Just type in Crimepedia and we'll pop up. You got bonus episodes on there. I am reliably informed that KJ Brady is actually Tom Brady in disguise. On Fox News the other day, I swear I saw Tom Brady with a Crimepedia shirt. So it's a coincidence that I see him in the shirt, and then somebody called KJ Brady starts up on our Patreon. So I think we're going to just go with that. I think that means that Tom Brady actually listens to Crimepedia.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely. 100%.
So this week is an exciting one because it's a two-parter from you. So it's your
Mhm.
episode. If you've never listened to the show before, Morgan and I take it in turns to tell you different crime episodes, and we go into the cases. One week he will do it, one week I will do it. But this one is a special one because he's got so much information it wouldn't fit into one episode. So this one is a
Yeah.
two-parter. And what have we got?
So this is actually a little different from what we normally do. So a lot of our cases are unsolved. Well, this one is an unsolved case,
Yeah.
but it's also more along the lines of who did it, or
Okay.
did they do it, and if they didn't do it, then who should we be looking at? So this is actually the story of Josette Wright. She was a young 12-year-old girl who went missing and was raped and murdered. And so this is really her story and the story of finding justice for Josette. In 1994, a 12-year-old girl would leave her family home in Carmel, New York, and never return. Once police were able to determine that the girl had been a victim of a violent crime, they would quickly arrest two teenage boys in connection to the crime. Despite the lack of any physical evidence, the two boys would be charged with murder and sit for trial. Were these two boys guilty of murder, or were they two additional victims of a horrific crime? This is Crimepedia, and this is Finding Justice for Josette Wright. All right, Sherry. Josette Wright was born on May 31st, 1982, as the third child of Susan and Gary Wright. She has been described as a vibrant, spirited young girl who had a deep affection for working with younger children. She exhibited remarkable athleticism and artistic talent during her childhood and would have been a great teacher. But unfortunately, Josette's home life was far from ideal. I know a lot of times in these episodes, we talk about how wonderful a kid is and we talk about the good things about him. But unfortunately, not every situation is always so positive. And I think that's the case with Josette.
Yeah.
Um, now, her family's home, according to at least one of her friends, was marked by constant chaos. It often served as a gathering spot for her older sister's friends who would also
Uh,
hang out,
mm.
drink, use drugs. Um, so it wasn't always a positive place for Josette to be. Now, Josette would frequently find herself unfairly blamed for any negative occurrences that happened within the family.
Oh no.
So she was almost like looked at as like the black sheep. And if something went wrong, it was always Josette's fault. Josette did this, Josette did that. We're in the situation we're in because of Josette. So a lot of negativity going on. Now, because of this, Josette did begin fostering a growing sense of resentment towards her own family.
No wonder.
You can't blame her. Like if you feel like
No.
you're just being like
Beat up all the
hounded
time.
and
Yeah.
beat up, yeah, like beat up,
Yeah.
like not like physically necessarily, but even like
No. You're
emotionally
gonna get
beat up.
resentful. Yeah.
Absolutely. And because of this, Josette began to distance herself from her family, and she was always looking for someone willing to provide her with a more stable and nurturing home environment. Now, she would frequently seek out refuge. I'll use the word refuge in the company of a friend named Rachel. She was a little bit older than Josette. I believe she was like 4 or 5 years older than her, so she was about 16 years old. And she would also often stay at Rachel's family apartment. Now, this place became almost like a sanctuary to Josette, where she felt secure and wanted. Now, she did become so attached to this family and the security that they provided that she pleaded with Rachel's mother to take her in when Rachel's family moved from that apartment
I
to
knew you
to
were gonna
another
say
another
that.
area.
I knew you were going to say that they moved away or they moved
They
home.
moved away.
Just as she got somewhere that she felt safe and secure, chances are
Hmm.
what's going to happen, they end up having to move away. Oh, I knew you were going
Hmm.
to say. I was hoping you wouldn't, but I just had a gut feeling you were going to say that. It's so
Yeah.
sad.
They did move away, and that she was basically uprooted. Just everything that she enjoyed, the that safety that she had in that home was taken away from her, and so now she's back
Yeah.
to this whole environment which she was desperately trying to get away from.
And how horrible that that's your maternal, that's your own home, your own family, your own flesh and blood that are treating you like that. And when you can go
Yeah,
and get so much love and care from another family that isn't even yours, that's so cruel.
and and at 12 years old, that's a very crucial time in a child's life. Boys and girls, right? You're going through so many changes physically, emotionally, and the last thing you want to do is to be in a situation where you feel unwanted or ignored or just like mentally abused. You
Yeah,
don't want that.
unsafe. You don't feel safe at
Mhm.
home. That's really upsetting that a child of that age is in a situation where their own home is not a safe sanctuary for them, because every child should feel safe at home.
Mhm.
You'd want that as an
Yeah.
adult. You want that for children.
I think the other thing that really affected Josette was because she was in this unsafe environment, and she was surrounded by um, older sisters who were partying a lot, and they were running with what I think we would both call a rough crowd. Josette was like desperate to belong to something, that she started heading down that path where she was heading towards that same life that her sisters were living, where um, school was going to take a back seat. Life was about drinking and using drugs, and that's where Josette was heading at this point.
Because in situations like this is where people see a vulnerable person, and this is where they can manipulate them. People that aren't good people can see somebody in that kind of situation, and it's easy to manipulate somebody like that. It's like grooming somebody into a gang. It's where they find the vulnerable people, they find what's really where their weak spots are, and they take over and they start providing what that child thinks is a good influence, is part of a family. You're one of us. They give them that security and that sense of belonging, so that
Mhm.
then this kid is now then under the spell of these people, and usually they are nefarious people with not good intentions, sadly.
Absolutely, absolutely, and I think that is exactly what happened with Josette in this case, unfortunately. Now, on October 3rd, 1994, Josette Wright would leave her home in Carmel, New York, and never return. She would be reported by she would be reported as missing to the police the following day by her mother, Susan. But you shouldn't be surprised that, especially at this time, police would initially treat her case as a runaway.
Oh, of course they will.
So, I mean, luckily, I think things are different now, and hopefully, it doesn't happen nearly as much. But there's so many times, especially 80s and 90s, where we have these cases, and she's a runaway. She's probably with friends. She'll come back when she's ready to come back.
And to be fair on the police, to be fair, like something silly like 94% of kids that are reported missing are found and are returned to the parents within a couple of days. The statistics are high. Unfortunately, there are a few that don't, but it is more
Mhm.
that I mean, police have missing children and missing teen calls every single day. And usually
Yeah.
they are found. But there are going to be those ones that unfortunately aren't, sadly.
To me, though, I think there's a huge difference between a mother calling a 16-year-old girl, being missing to the police, than a 12-year-old. A 12-year-old is still a child.
Of course, yeah, of course. I mean, any missing child, and there are people that where the kids will go missing and come back. It's what they do, and then there's ones where the parents will say she would never do this. This is so out of character. This is not like her. And that, I think, then the same rules don't apply, because this parent is telling you this is not like my child. They don't do
Hmm.
this. So I agree with you. I think the difference between a
Yeah.
16-year-old and a 12-year-old is very different.
Here's the other thing too that's really interesting, right? So we already know that Josette would spend a lot of time with Rachel and her family and stay there, right? So that's something that she was known to do. But for a mother to call the police because their child's missing, and the child is someone that does get up and go and are staying with other people, that's very telling. There had been something really, really wrong for Susan to say, this doesn't feel right. I need to call the police.
Yeah, definitely.
So I think at that point, I think the police need to take things like this very, very seriously. Now, on November 22nd, 1995, so this is almost 14 months later, so a year and almost 2 months later, a hunter would discover skeletal remains in a dense wooded area near Fields Lane. This is it's a dirt road, kind of like a cut through road with no houses or street lamps in Patterson, New York. Now, the skeleton was not closed, but there was a coat placed over the top of the remains. The coat was wet and badly deteriorated, with plants growing through the fibers of the material. So obviously, she had been
It's
out there
been there
for a
for a
very, very
while.
long time,
Yeah, yeah.
right? Now, a rope bound the victim's hands behind their back, encircled their neck, and one of their legs. So almost like being hogtied a little bit.
Yeah, and this is definitely not a suicide.
Not a suicide. 100% not a suicide. Now, the bones of their right foot were broken. The victim also had underwear stuffed in their throat, and a bra was tied around their face. So almost like the underwear was used to gag, and then the bra was put around to almost like to keep
Keep it in
the underwear
place.
in
Yeah.
place. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Now, dental X-rays would confirm that the remains were those of 12-year-old Josette Wright.
That's
Now,
sad.
the death would be classified as a murder, and it would be assigned to two Putnam County investigators, Patrick Castaldo and William Quick. Now, it should be noted that neither detective had ever worked a murder case. Okay.
Okay. Well,
Now,
everybody's
at the
got to have a
time,
first case.
they
Every
do,
detective has got to have a first case. So we can't hold that against them. Obviously, if
but
you
you're
if
gonna
obviously you want a seasoned detective, don't you, on your child's
you
case?
do,
Yeah.
but you put two unseasoned murder
Yeah, that's not a
detectives
good
on a
idea, is
case.
it? No.
You can put one, if I can understand doing one. I can understand having one maybe new detective on it and then a seasoned one, right?
Yeah, so
So
you can
that
mix it up. You've got somebody who's
you
got
can
a
mix
bit
it
of
up.
experience and then a new guy who can be guided by the person with experience. That makes sense.
Exactly. Now the other problem is too that at this time, the investigative training in Putnam County, New York, consisted mostly of a classroom course. So
Oh
they
God.
simply were just given, hey, you got to go sit in this for this course, and you're going to learn all you need to know about murder investigations.
Murder Investigation 101.
Yeah, yeah, that's what they got basically. So you have two basically new murder investigators on this case who have little to no formal training.
That's just I mean, even not even in hindsight is that a bad idea. At the time, if somebody suggested that, that's a bad idea.
A really, really bad idea. And we're going to learn why it's a bad idea here because um, this investigation was not well done at all. Okay. So 3 days after the discovery of Josette's body, this would have been on November 25th, 1995, police would take into custody three individuals: 19-year-old Anthony DePipo, 18-year-old Andrew Krivek, and a 16-year-old named Dominic Neglia, following discovery of drugs in their vehicle. Now, the three were part of a group who were, I would call, mostly unsupervised teenagers.
Okay.
And they would spend most of their time drinking and using drugs. Now, Anthony DePipo began smoking weed at the age of 15, but by the time of his arrest, he had already, I'm using the word graduated, he already began using PCP. So PCP became his drug of choice by
Oh
this point.
no.
So
Yeah.
this is very, very
At
heavy drugs.
15.
Yeah. Yes.
Jeez, that's quite heavy for a 15-year-old.
Very heavy. Very,
Shit.
very heavy.
Yeah, that's crazy.
I mean, I can't imagine like how you go from, I mean, I understand
Yeah.
15-year-olds using marijuana, right? Smoking marijuana,
Yeah.
whatever. But how do you transition from marijuana to PCP? Like, I know it
Yeah.
happens. I'm not naive. I know it happens, but it's mind boggling to
It's
me.
not nice. Yeah, it's not nice to think about, is it? That's not, I mean, that's like mind-altering
No, it's
drugs.
not.
That's really not good. Really not good.
Mm-hmm. No, absolutely. Now, most of the kids who were in this group that they hung out with had all been kicked out of school by the time they were 17 years old. Um, this is also a group that was familiar with Josette's Wright's sisters, so they all knew each other. Josette
Oh,
actually
okay.
knew these
Yeah.
guys as well, so there is a connection. So it's not like
Yeah.
it's not like they're just three completely random kids they pick up and they pull in. There is a connection between Josette and these three.
Yeah.
Okay. During initial questioning, Dominic Neglia, who happened to be actually a special needs student,
Okay.
would end up giving a vague statement suggesting that Anthony DePipo and Andrew Krivik knew something about Josette's death. Okay. Now, this is so oddly similar to the West Memphis Three at this point, right?
Right.
So you
Okay.
have three teenage boys who are picked up and questioned, um, and you have a young adult who has special needs,
Yeah.
who has intellectual disabilities, who you are basically interviewing without any representation, no parents, no lawyer, nothing, and they give these vague
Ah, no
statements.
parents, no lawyers.
No,
Why would you
no.
do something like that? Like, why? You know, as a law enforcement, if that gets found out by whoever you're talking to, if they do get lawyers eventually,
Hmm.
it's gonna be null and void. So why would you even do it? It's stupid.
Yeah. Now, Dominic's statement actually lacked any sufficient grounds to file charges against the two. So investigators would start to pressure him to give a more detailed statement.
Ah,
Over a period of 2 months, they would visit him
wow.
at school, at his job, and at his home, trying to get more information. Now, he ended up getting pulled out of class so often for interrogation that the principal at Dominic's high school would demand that they stop.
It's bordering on harassment, isn't it? It is harassment, really. He's a
Yeah,
kid as well.
100%.
That's the other thing.
Yeah. Now, at one point, Dominic would go to the police station and said that he wanted no part of the investigation.
Yeah.
And because of that, he states that Detective Castaldo had actually struck him in the back of the head with a pair of handcuffs, asserting that
Ugh.
he had no choice but to comply. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, Detective Quick, who was also present, told Dominic that they had just witnessed Dominic fall out of his chair and hit his head. So the other detective was like, "Oh no, you didn't get hit in the head with handcuffs. You fell out of your chair and you hit your own head." So this is already
Yeah.
kind of
This
shady
is
at
already
this
getting
point,
dodgy.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, fearing further mistreatment, Dominic would reluctantly agree to accept money from Detective Quick with the purpose of purchasing drugs for DePipo, getting him high, and persuading him to divulge information.
These are very underhand tactics. This is not going to work
Oh,
in a
to
court
say
of
the
law.
least.
This is not going to work in
To
a court of
say the
law.
least.
They're going to throw the
This is
book at these cops.
horrific. This is
This is not
horrific
good.
already.
I'm
Now,
shaking my
Dominic did
head
take the money.
already.
I know. Dominic would take the money, and he was going to go through this plan of trying to get Anthony high and try to get more information out of him. But so after he did this, Dominic would state that Anthony admitted to his involvement in the murder alongside Anthony Krivik and several other people who were there at the time. Okay,
But wouldn't that go down as like entrapment? Wouldn't that go
you
down
would.
because they're giving him drugs to get him to confess? So
Mhm.
wouldn't that go down? I mean, if I was a defense attorney, I would be looking at that. You've set him up. You've set him up, and you've given him drugs, so he could be saying anything. So anything he says under the influence of that surely can't be taken and used because he's under the influence of drugs that you've given him for that purpose.
You exactly right. But here's the other thing. I don't think this actually ever happened. I
Oh,
don't think
okay,
Dominic
okay.
ever did this.
Ever did
I
it?
think you have a what was he, 16? You have a 16-year-old kid who has already been
Yeah,
harassed, tormented, abused by
yeah,
police, who's been given money to
yeah.
do something. So he's going to go, "Okay, yeah, I did it. Yeah, this is what I did."
Right. Okay. Okay.
Yeah, so I talked to him and this is what he told me, right?
Right.
I don't think he actually went through with it. I think he just said, "Okay,
Just
I'll
that he
do it," and
did.
then just told the police what they think he needed to say to
Right.
to
Okay.
to get to stop.
Yeah, I understand.
Now, Dominic would claim that Anthony told him that at the time of the crime, he was with Andrew Krivik as well as some other friends, one named Adam Wilson, another named William McGregor, and Anthony's then girlfriend Denise Rose. Okay. Now, from this information, investigators were able to get a statement from Adam Wilson, which would implicate both Andrew Krivik and Anthony DePipo in the crime. And while William McGregor said that he was in a van at the time of in a van with Josette, Andrew, Anthony, Adam Wilson, and Denise Rose, he said that he remembered nothing else because he passed out after drinking and taking drugs. Okay, so you
Right.
have one person saying, "Yeah, Anthony and Andrew were definitely involved in the crime." You have
Yeah.
another person that says, "Yeah, I was in a van and Josette was in the van with us." With some other people. So
Yeah.
now you have one person that says, yeah, they were involved in a crime. You have another person that said, yeah, I was there and I can
She was there.
put them with
Yeah.
Josette. She was there as well.
Yeah.
Now, Denise Rose would end up providing two statements to the detectives during their investigation. In her initial statement, Denise Rose acknowledged that she was with Anthony DePipo, Andrew Krivik, and Josette on October 3rd, 1994. But she did not mention witnessing the rape and murder at that time. Okay. So she's saying, yeah, I was in a car with them or in the
Yeah.
van with them, but she never mentioned anything about any sort of crime, that they were just hanging
Right.
out. Okay.
Okay.
During the second interview or second statement, she would later claim that her silence in talking about the crime stemmed from her fear, as Anthony DePipo had threatened her life if she were to divulge any details about the crime. So when they asked her again about it, she said,
Yeah.
"Okay, I do know information about the crime, but Anthony threatened me if I were to say anything, so I was scared for my life." So now you have, a, in addition to Dominic, now you have three other people who either can put Anthony and Andrew in the van with Josette,
Yeah.
and you
With
have
her.
at least two other people who said, "Yeah, I know that they were involved in the crime." So
Right. It's not looking good for them.
it's not, no, not at all. Now, in addition, in the second statement, Rose would change her account, disclosing that she had, in fact, actually observed Andrew Krivik and Anthony DePipo commit the rape and murder of Josette. So at this point, she's saying, yeah, I saw it. I was there. I witnessed it. This is exactly what happened. I should mention, and I kind of hinted at it when I said the then girlfriend of
Yeah.
Anthony DePipo. By this time, Denise Rose and Anthony DePipo had broken
Had
up, so
split
they were
up.
no longer
Yeah.
together. So
Yeah.
now you
That's
have
very
this
convenient.
very convenient.
If he didn't do it, if he didn't do
Mm.
it, that makes me really mad, because the person that did do it has got away with it. If she's giving false information that he did it because she's mad at him because they've split up, then
Mhm.
that means that the person that actually did do it could get away with this scot-free. So I
Mhm.
hate it when people do that, when people admit to something that they haven't done just to get themselves out of prison, or because the real person that did it, if you know 100% you didn't do something, then you know somebody else has. And if she knows 100% that that she's just doing this because she's annoyed at him because they've split up and she's just being nasty, doesn't it enter her head that the real person that raped and murdered her sister is still out there and is still,
Mhm.
you know, hasn't been caught? I mean, why would you
Right.
do that just to be vicious to him? It's
Yeah,
stupid.
it's been yeah, exactly. It's insane. And here's the thing too. So we're talking what when we're talking about this investigation, all we have is these statements. These
Yeah,
statements
yeah.
from these
From these
teenage kids,
kids.
young adults who are saying their statements are changing. They're saying no, they were with
Yeah.
them, but I didn't see anything. To no, I saw the rape and murder. There's one thing which I haven't mentioned, and I did this on purpose. There's no evidence of any of this. Let's
No.
just get it straight. There is
It's
absolutely
just
no evidence.
no. It's just
There
the
is
say so
zero
of these
physical
people.
evidence that these two were involved at all. It's just it's he said she said at this point. Okay, so
Jeez. What a
so
mess. What a mess.
as law enforcement, what are you going to do at this point, right? What can you do?
Yeah. Well, exactly.
Well,
There's no evidence.
there's no evidence. But on July 1st, 1996, both Anthony DePipo and Andrew Krivik were arrested on charges of murder and rape.
What? That's
So they were
crazy.
arrested and charged.
How on earth did they allow them to be charged when there was no evidence? Only on this only on the say so of an ex-girlfriend? What? I just don't get that. I don't Over here that would never happen, because the
It shouldn't
CPS would just
happen.
throw that straight out and say no. It wouldn't happen.
You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. This is
Yeah.
it's the job of the prosecutor to get the information from the investigators and determine is there a case or
Yeah.
not, right?
And there isn't.
At that point,
100%
there's no
no
case.
case. No, I agree.
Not
It's a
no case.
waste of
So
police time.
why do you? And here's the thing: if they did do it, and you have no evidence besides what these three other people are saying, and they go free, they're they're free. They're free to go.
Yeah.
You have
Yeah.
two people that could have raped and murdered a 12-year-old, and you're taking them to trial with some statements that a
Nothing. Yeah.
ex-girlfriend
You take
made
them to trial with
and
nothing.
some
Yeah.
friends. There is nothing.
No. Wow.
I don't understand at this point. Like why?
No, I
What
don't
is the benefit
understand.
of taking them to trial without any like real physical evidence?
Yeah. That doesn't make sense to me.
Now the two would end up going to trial in two separate trials in
Wow.
1997. So they would go in front of judge and jury. By this time, Dominic Neglia would recant his statement in a sworn affidavit. Now, in this affidavit, he stated that his statement was false and that he thought that the story would blow over, and that he had never thought that Anthony DePipo and Andrew Krivik would be prosecuted for the rape and murder of Josette Wright. Okay,
Yeah.
so Dominic's already said no, I
Is now
lied.
I said no,
Yeah,
I just lied.
yeah,
That's not really a surprise,
this
is
did
it?
not happen. They didn't do anything. They didn't tell me that they were involved. What I
Yeah.
said was fabrication. Okay,
Yeah.
so that's one. Um, Adam Wilson. So remember Adam Wilson, he stated that he he was he was the first person to implicate Andrew
Yeah.
Krivik and Anthony
Said they were in the
DePipo
van. He's the
for
guy
the
that said that
crime.
they were in the van with her.
He was in the van, but he was the first one to say, yeah, they were involved in the crime. They raped and murdered her. Okay.
Oh, wow. Okay.
He would also recant his statement prior to the trial. So now we have two statements that were made that police are using, investigators are using, prosecutors are using to try Anthony DePipo and Andrew Krivik have already recanted, saying, nope, I lied. Never happened. Okay.
Sheesh.
The trials would go on. So besides
Seriously?
this, they would still go on. Yeah.
They
March
carried on.
1997. Yeah. March 1997, Andrew Krivik faced trial in Putnam County Supreme Court. Now, during the proceedings, William McGregor provided testimony recounting an encounter he had in October 1994. Okay. So this would have been around the time that Josette had disappeared and would be raped and murdered. McGregor stated that he had seen Josette one evening at a Citgo gas station, although he did not know her name at the time because he had never crossed paths with her before. So he's saying, yeah, October 1994, I saw this girl who I happen to know is Josette Wright at a Citgo gas station, but I didn't know who she was at the time. Which to me is interesting because if you see someone that you don't know and like you're not gonna like pay much attention to them, but this statement is really weird because it's almost like, oh yeah, I knew that was her.
Yeah, that's odd.
So now he stated that he recounted getting into a van, which Andrew Krivik was driving, alongside of Anthony DePipo, Adam Wilson, Josette Wright, and another girl he did not know, who we're assuming is Denise Rose at this point. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now he stated that the group would drive to Fields Lane. McGregor would then explain that he was in a hazy, semi-conscious state upon arriving at Fields Lane due to the influence of drugs and alcohol. His next recollection was waking up in front of his home, still inside Andrew Krivik's van, with Andrew Krivik and Anthony DePipo present. So he's saying that, so his story is he saw Josette Wright at the Citgo gas station, and then later on, I don't know if it's the same night or a different time, that he had gotten into a van with this group. Josette Wright was with them. They drove to Fields Lane. He was high and drunk and was going in and out of consciousness, so he doesn't know what happened. But he knows that they drove to Fields Lane.
Conveniently, yeah.
Right? So next we have Denise Rose, and Denise Rose would then testify that they were playing spin the bottle in the van. She said that when Andrew Krivik tried to kiss Josette, Josette would resist. Andrew Krivik then threw Josette to the floor of the van, pulled off her jeans and underwear, and stuffed the underwear in Josette's mouth to keep her quiet.
In front of her sister?
No, this is not sister. I'm sorry.
Okay. Not in front of Denise. Okay.
No.
Okay.
No. Denise is not. Denise isn't sister. Denise is Anthony DePipo's girlfriend at the time.
Oh, okay. Yeah, okay.
Not sister. Okay.
Right, okay.
All right. So this is just random. I don't want to say random girl, but this is just no relation between. Now, Denise Rose said that when Josette began to kick and struggle, Andrew Krivik removed Josette's shirt and bra, then grabbed a piece of rope and tied Josette's hands in front of her.
Oh, okay.
Denise said that Krivik then raped Josette, and then Anthony raped her after.
What?
Okay,
and they just sat by and watched that happen, did he? Didn't do anything. Just sat by and watched them do all
Oh, hey, there's my boyfriend raping a 12-year-old girl. Cool.
Don't mind me. I'll just sit here and look the other way. That's ridiculous.
Come on. Really?
Come on. That's crazy.
But the biggest thing was grab the rope and tie Josette's hands in
to the
front of her.
Yeah, and she was found obviously with her hands tied behind.
With her hands tied behind her. So, and no one's going to untie, and then retie behind.
No, of course they're not. No.
No. Now, Denise Rose said that Josette had been struggling to breathe while Andrew Krivik raped her, but she was motionless and silent after Anthony DePipo raped her, right? So she's saying that, by the time Anthony was raping her, she wasn't moving, wasn't doing anything. So the assumption is that she had died during the rape. Andrew Krivik and Anthony DePipo, or Rose said that Andrew and Anthony then carried Josette out of the van and returned about 15 to 20 minutes later. She would testify that when she asked where Josette was, Andrew Krivik said, "She is sleeping."
And this girl has only just come forward with this information all this time after.
Yeah, so over a year later, she's saying, I've had this information
to herself, for a year.
For over a year.
And now she's
it wasn't until police come to me and start interviewing me that now I'm going to give you all this information. All this information, which, just so you know, one piece of this information that I'm telling and I'm testifying with is 100% incorrect. Did not happen.
This is just crazy. This doesn't make any sense. I don't believe her. I don't believe that you would sit and watch two people rape a 12-year-old girl in front of you and that wouldn't traumatize you. You would be scared for your life if they did that in front of you. You would be absolutely horrified. I don't care how hard-faced you are. You would be horrified that they're going to do something like that to you. And the fact that you witnessed it, you are now a witness to something that they've done. You'd be scared to death that they were going to do something to hurt you. I don't believe it.
Yeah.
I don't believe it.
It's insane. What? I would have more belief in the story if she would say, hey, this night we were hanging with Josette. They dropped me off, and I don't know where they went. But later on,
Yeah.
Anthony came by and was like, hey, we did something horrible. What do we
Yeah.
do? That's a better story than I was
then it
saying that
happened
we were
right
playing
in
spin the
front of
bottle.
me. Yeah.
Yeah, we were playing spin the bottle in the van. Josette refused. Then she was raped and killed right in front of me.
Yeah, because you're a horrible, horrible person if you don't do anything to try and help her at the time. I know you might be. I know she might be scared and she might be paralyzed with fear. But within those 12 months following, surely she would have had to tell somebody that happened. She would have had a whole change in her demeanor. She would have been guilty. It would have changed her behavior. She would have been like a different person. It's strange.
It's very, very, very strange. Very strange. So things get worse for Denise Rose at this point, right? Because now we have the defense is going to go up and they're going to present their case. Of course, the defense thought to discredit Denise Rose's testimony by noting that she was an admitted drug user and that she had changed her statement to implicate Andrew Krivik and Anthony DePipo after she had been arrested on felony criminal mischief charges and while driving while intoxicated. These were charges which carried as much as 7.5 years in prison.
So there is her motive to try and throw them under the bus to get herself off of those charges.
Yes.
There you go. There's her reason for coming up with this story.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. The defense claimed that detectives had fed Denise Rose the information in her second statement, okay, including the misinformation that Josette's hands were tied in front of her, not behind her back, as evidence showed.
Man,
so they're saying
what a mess
she was fed information and she got it wrong. Got it wrong.
Now that sounds a lot more likely to me than the fact that she was in the back of a van and witnessed a double rape and murder. That story that she had got herself into trouble further down the line, tried to get herself out of trouble, the police fed her the lines and she was going to do that and got it wrong. That makes a lot more sense than her original statement.
Right. Mm-hmm. Exactly. Now, and the investigators or police would testify that on May 11th, 1995, this was several months before Josette's body was discovered. Okay. Andrew Krivik's van was searched. Now, Putnam County Deputy Sheriff William Asher stated that he had found 2 rings, a ruby ring and a pear-shaped diamond-colored stone ring, on the floor of the van between the driver's seat and the passenger seat. 4 witnesses, including Josette's mother, Susan Wright, and Josette's boyfriend at the time, Billy Wooster, identified the rings as belonging to Josette. One of the witnesses, Tara Duffy, testified that Josette was wearing both rings when she last saw Josette on October 2nd, 1994. So the day before that Josette went missing. Okay. So now police are saying, yeah, we found these rings in his van. They belong to Josette. And people say, yeah, those were Josette's rings. And one person said, yeah, she was wearing those rings the day before she went missing. Okay. So now it's kind of like, okay, maybe there's something here. Police also testified that in subsequent searches of the van conducted by investigator John Reese on January 2nd, 1996, a lizard earring and a tiger eye ring were found in the map pocket of the vehicle. Now, Denise Rose said that the lizard earring was similar to one that Josette wore the night of the crime. Billy Wooster, once again, that was Josette's boyfriend at the time, testified that Josette was wearing the lizard earring and diamond-colored ring when he last saw her on October 2nd, 1994. The victim's grandmother, Josette, let me say that again. Josette's grandmother, Geraldine Allen, testified that the tiger eye ring was a ring that she had given to Josette as a gift. So now we have people who are saying, yeah, these are Josette's and they were found in the van. So I don't know.
Well, yeah, okay. So it doesn't mean to say that. I mean, she was in the van at some point.
She
might
could have been
in
in the
the
van.
van at
Exactly.
some point. That's right.
Yep. Now, Detective Castaldo testified that when he and Detective Quick testified that when he and Detective Quick interrogated Andrew Krivik, Krivik admitted that he had raped Josette, but denied killing her. So now they're saying that it was admitted.
Now he's admitting it.
They're saying that Andrew Krivik
that,
admitted to them.
Okay.
Which there's no evidence that he
There's
ever
no evidence
did.
that he did. Okay.
Now, the defense would contend that this particular statement was coerced by the detectives, and the defense presented testimony from a polygraph expert who testified that Andrew Krivik had been subjugated to a polygraph examination and that his denials of involvement in the rape and murder were truthful. The defense claimed that the detectives falsely told Andrew Krivik that he had failed the polygraph to coerce him to falsely confess.
So you can do that over there because I know that it's different here. Our police can't lie in interrogations. We're not allowed to lie. So you can lie and say you failed
100%.
the polygraph, even
100%.
though they didn't. That's crazy. That's. I get it. I get it that I get that you can lie to suspects in order to try and get them to drop things, but that seems a bit far-fetched. The fact that you actually failed a polygraph, but
yeah.
The person's under enough duress as it is, even if they didn't do it. So
right.
That seems a bit underhand, really.
Now, here's the other thing, right? So defense was also able to call 3 witnesses who testified that they actually saw Josette after October 3rd, 1994, the day that prosecutors claimed that she was raped and killed. One of these was actually one of Josette's teachers who saw her at a mall after October 3rd, 1994.
When she was supposed to already have been killed.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay.
So
then obviously that's, yeah.
On April 16th, 1997, the jury would end up convicting Andrew Krivik of second degree murder and first degree rape.
How the hell have they come to that conclusion after all that? Were the jury on drugs?
They were on PCP.
Wow.
That was supplied by.
I'm very surprised that they
actually
got a conviction. I'm surprised that the jury actually got a guilty verdict on that. That is crazy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's insane. So, so Andrew Krivik was found guilty.
And what about the other dude?
Anthony DePipo went on to trial in May 1997.
Yeah.
Now, in this one, Denise Rose and William McGregor would once again testify. Okay. So we're going to start with, the first person we're talking about is a guy by the name of Vincent Farinella, who was a correction officer at the Putnam County Jail. Now, he testified that on July 1st, 1996, at approximately 10:25 p.m., while he was escorting Anthony DePipo to the first floor of the jail after completing the booking process, he stated that Anthony DePipo said, "I can't believe Andrew Krivik ratted me out." Okay. Scott Chestnut, who was an inmate at the jail, would testify that on July 1st, same day, when Anthony DePipo returned to his cell in the North Housing Unit at approximately 9:45 to 10 p.m., stated he couldn't believe his best friend ratted on him. So we have two people. You have a corrections officer. Now you have an inmate who are saying that Anthony DePipo made comments that Andrew Krivik ratted him out. Okay. Now, Chestnut said that Anthony DePipo then said that he had sex with the girl, but he did not kill her, and that Josette's death was an accident because she was high on dust, PCP.
PCP,
Okay.
yeah.
Now, Victor Nestor, who was another Putnam County corrections officer, testified that on July 3rd, this would have been 2 days later after these first two statements, while Anthony DePipo was in a holding cell next to the booking room, Anthony asked Victor Nestor to help him with his necktie. Victor Nestor said that while he was helping Anthony DePipo said that he was scared. Nestor then said that when he told Anthony DePipo to go to court and see what happens, Anthony DePipo said, "I was there. I was high. I don't remember."
But again, it's all he said this, he said that. There's no actual solid, hard evidence, is there? There's nothing. There's no evidence
There
of
is
this.
not.
So I'm inclined to think no again.
I mean, there's no
I mean,
hard
I don't know
evidence.
these kids. I don't know them. I don't know these kids. I don't know what kind of kids they are. I don't know anything about them. Listening to this as a complete insider, there is not enough information here. If I was on that jury, there is not enough information for me to say 100% guilty. There isn't. There just isn't. It doesn't make sense.
I would say that at this point, like even now, like these are they would admit to this at this point in their lives. These are not the type of kids that you would want your daughter to bring home, right?
Of course not. No.
So they're not
not
innocent
boys,
kids. They're not
they?
good.
Yeah.
No, they are drug users. They are they're traveling almost on a weekly basis down to New York City to buy drugs. They are, they're not.
Doesn't necessarily make them murderers, though, does it?
It doesn't. No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't at all.
They may not be of exemplary character. That doesn't make them murderers. There's no evidence, no physical hard evidence that they could show, or they have shown so far, to prove that they had anything to do with this girl's death.
Right.
And now this makes me think, because this is a 2-part episode and we're coming to the end of this episode, this makes me think you're going to do your classic normal thing and say to me, however, I know it's coming. I just know it's coming.
Maybe.
I can just tell.
Maybe. Now, Anthony DePipo would testify in his own defense, and he would deny any involvement in the crime or making any admissions of guilt to anyone. Right.
Okay.
So we have 3 people who said, he admitted to guilt. You have one who's a snitch, right? He's an inmate. So to me, you have to take that with a grain of salt, or just completely like throw that away, because but you do have 2 corrections officers who you would think would do the right thing and not make stuff up on the stand.
Yeah.
But you don't know what their situation is. You don't know if it could be something. You don't know if they have disciplinary action against them and that's being held over their head.
Yeah.
You don't know what is causing them, or what reason they have to come forward. It could be, he really did say this to them, right? Or it could be, you know what, I need to keep my job, and this is what I needed to do to keep my job. So, but we don't know. So I think that we need to, all these statements we just have to keep. You can't put too much weight on them.
No, you got to keep an open mind with it. I agree.
No, absolutely. So like I said, Anthony DePipo would testify and deny any involvement in the crime or making any admission to guilt. Now, he said that while he knew Josette Wright, he could not have been with her at the time of the crime because he was living with his girlfriend in a trailer park in Danbury, Connecticut. So he's telling the jury, I couldn't have done this. I was in Connecticut at the time of the crime. I was in Danbury, Connecticut. I wasn't in Putnam County. I wasn't in Carmel, New York. I couldn't have done this.
This case is just wild. It's just completely wild.
It is.
You couldn't write it. It just makes no sense.
The defense would also call Adam Wilson to the stand, in which he recanted his original statement. But the prosecution impeached his testimony with his original statement. So they're saying that that he's lying. So he's lying on he's lying on stand now, in that his original statement was true.
Come on.
I know. So listen to this, all right? Robert Hansen, a guy by the name of Robert Hansen, would testify that on the morning of July 3rd, 1997, while he was incarcerated at the Putnam County Jail and working as a trustee in charge of laundry, had a conversation with Scott Chestnut, right? So Scott Chestnut was the inmate who was in jail who testified that Anthony DePipo had stated that he had sex with a girl, but he did not kill her, and that she died because she was on drugs, right? Now, Robert Hansen stated that Scott Chestnut told him that he spoke to police about giving a statement against Anthony DePipo in order to get himself transferred out of North Housing.
There you go. That's it, isn't it? There's always a reason that prison snitches come forward. There's always something they're going to gain from it. So I don't think they should use prison snitch testimony, because 99 times out of 100 is untrue.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Now, this is where things get really, really crazy, and you're like, wait a second.
This is where things get crazy, is it?
Okay, no. I mean, it's already crazy, but this is where it's like you're going to go like, wait a second, why haven't we heard about this before? During Anthony DePipo's trial, his defense attorneys called Andrew Krivik Sr., so Andrew Krivik's father,
Dad, yeah.
Andrew Krivik's mother, Babette Krivik, and Gennaro Desimoni, I'm sure I said that name right, who was a mechanic who was a friend of the Krivik family. All three testified that on the day of the crime, Andrew Krivik's van had 3 flat tires and was not operational.
What?
None of them had been called to testify at Andrew Krivik's trial.
That's ridiculous.
They also stated that there were 2 captain's chairs in the back of the van, and the sliding door was broken, which went against everything Denise Rose said about the van at the time. So Denise Rose
why
said
haven't we heard
that
about this before?
I have no idea. I have no idea why Andrew Krivik's attorneys did not call them.
Yeah, why didn't they bring this up earlier?
No idea. So now Andrew Krivik's van's not working at the time.
So there goes the scene of the crime.
Josette could not have been seen getting into Andrew Krivik's van through the sliding door on August 3rd, 1994. Could not have happened.
Wow. This is a mess.
Now, Andrew Krivik Sr. also testified that just before the search of Andrew Krivik's van, which occurred on May 11th, 1995, he had cleaned out the map pocket, which was filled with debris and litter, and that he found no rings. So before the van was searched, Andrew Krivik Sr.
had cleaned it all
out the van.
And there was nothing in there.
So they've nothing been planted. In there.
Wow. Okay. This whole thing should have been thrown out. It should have been thrown out then, because it should have been thrown out. This is crazy. Waste of court time. Waste of public money.
It is. On June 5th, 1997, the jury would come back and convict Anthony DePipo on second-degree murder and first-degree rape charges.
Did they pay the jury off? How the hell did they get how did they do that? This has got to be the most frustrating, confusing, and crazy case you've ever done. This is just ridiculous.
It's absolutely ridiculous. Absolutely.
This seems to me like a case that the courts have done before the courts got any kind of sense. This is like it's mental. This is just absolutely mental.
It's unbelievable. Both Andrew Krivek and Anthony DePipo would be sentenced to 25 years to life in prison.
Sheesh, that's crazy. On nothing, on no damn evidence, no physical evidence. And they've been given 25 years to life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's crazy.
I understand wanting to get justice, sir.
Yeah, but you want the right person. You want the person
want
that
the
did
right
it, not just
person.
anyone.
And even if Andrew Krivek and Anthony DePipo were guilty, or actually guilty of the rape and murder of Josette Wright, you want it to be done in the right way.
Yeah,
You want
100%.
it. Already, I can tell you that there are so many issues with these trials that these are going to go to appeal.
Yeah, so they should.
And in our next episode, we're going to go over the appeal process. We're going to talk about what's happening now, where they are. But most importantly, we're going to be talking about a gentleman who, from day one, should have been a suspect, should have been
That's
should
the
have been
way
the
I like it.
only suspect.
Yeah, there's somebody else.
A guy who's in prison right now for rape and murder.
That makes a lot more sense to me. So this is just crazy. Next week, we'll have the next installment to possibly the craziest case that Morgan's ever done.
This is literally the craziest case I've done, I think. It's
definitely
so frustrating.
Yeah.
So frustrating.
It's unjust. It is very, very unjust. I don't know these boys, and I don't think they did it.
And unfortunately for the two, this unjustment is going to continue for a very long time for them.
Man.
So,
well, thank you for that. Join us back next week. Morgan will have the second installment to this absolutely crazy, ridiculous story.
like I said, this is completely different from what we've normally done, right? Yeah. So the story is Josette. Josette is the victim. Well, was the first victim in this crime.
Yeah. Is it possible that those boys are also victims?
Yeah. Oh, not even that. I mean, Dominic, he's a victim, right? He was abused and he was tormented. He's a victim. William McGregor, victim. Adam Wilson, a victim in different ways.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of victims that are starting to pile up in this case.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we have a lot more to cover, and it's only going to get more frustrating from here.
I know you're going to hate us for doing this to you, but next week then. God, that's crazy.
Yeah, stick with us.
Stick with us. Okay, so at the end of every episode, because our episodes usually are quite harrowing and upsetting, we like to do something to make you smile, to leave you on a smiley note. So we like to do something that we call the dumb criminal.
Hey, criminal, you's a dummy.
You're going to like this one. So a woman who was part of a twosome that robbed a California store got caught for the crime because she left her cell phone at the scene. Okay. Not just that she left her cell phone at the scene. She actually went back and asked them for her cell phone. So she was arrested for robbery after she returned to the store minutes after holding the store up. Okay. Her and her friend decided to rob a California nail supply store. Initially, they made it out with about $600 worth of merchandise, which is about 490 quid's worth. Then one of the girls decided to go back into the store to see where her phone was because she had dropped it during the getaway.
No.
Okay. So the phone was the girl picked up her phone, she got it, and so the two girls, it was Kadriana Hall, who was 24, and Serenadi Banks, who was 19. They left the scene in a vehicle, and then they were actually sat outside their home in the car an hour later when the police pulled up to arrest them, okay? Because obviously they knew who she was. So the reports say that the merchandise was in the back of the car, on the back seat, in plain sight. So they caught them red-handed with the merchandise on the back of the thing. Not only that, but the store surveillance video during the robbery actually caught her, and then caught her coming back and picking up her phone.
No.
So they were obviously arrested, taken in and charged. Absolutely ridiculous.
That's
you
horrible.
can see her there you can see it. They just literally walked in, got what they wanted, walked out the front door. She realizes she's lost her phone, turns around, goes back in and demands to have her phone back because she's lost it. Now, the problem is, right, when she dropped the phone, it's one of those open up ones, okay, which you put all your, you can put cards and stuff in, like people put it had her driving license in it, her credit card in it. So that's how they found out who she was. They picked up her phone after seeing her drop it. She comes back in. Well, they've already got all her details. So they reported to the police, and that's how they caught her. Her driving license just led them straight to her house.
Insane. What's really crazy is that police, after they arrested them, they ended up charging Anthony DePipo and Andy Private of the robbery.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. Right, so that is it for this week. Thank you so much for joining us. We are back to normal now after our break. We'll be back next week, same time, same place. Get us wherever you listen to your podcast. Thank you for listening. For now, be nice.
And bye.
You've missed saying that, haven't you?